Right now, the entire global order is being violently rewritten, and what you are being told is a targeted defensive operation has just mutated into the most dangerous imperial gamble of the 21st century. We are watching the complete unraveling of a core political promise, replaced by a kingmaker fantasy that guarantees a catastrophic regional bloodbath. Before most people even realize what is happening, the geopolitical chessboard has already been flipped. If you want to understand the terrifying reality behind these rapidly escalating events and see the hidden mechanics of this conflict, make sure to like this video and subscribe, because the surface level narrative is missing the actual red lines being crossed today. The situation on the ground has completely spiraled. What the administration initially sold to the global public as a limited and defensive military campaign has suddenly been exposed as a full-blown regime change operation. In a move that alters the strategic calculus overnight, President Trump has explicitly declared that he must be directly involved in handpicking the next supreme leader of Iran. He went on the record with Axios and Reuters, entirely dismissing the front-runner, Mojtaba Khamenei, as an unacceptable lightweight. To make matters infinitely more volatile, Trump openly compared his intended intervention in Tehran to his previous installation of Delcy Rodriguez in Venezuela. I am looking at a scenario where a fiercely independent, heavily armed nation is suddenly being treated like a conquered vassal state. This is no longer about neutralizing a nuclear threat or responding to hidden uranium facilities discovered by the IAEA. This is an attempt to openly install a puppet regime in one of the most hostile environments on Earth, and it is a gamble that the United States cannot survive without triggering a multi-trillion-dollar global catastrophe. Wait, it gets much worse, because the immediate fallout from this arrogance is already burning through the Middle East. By demanding direct control over the succession of the Islamic Republic, a massive, uncrossable red line has been breached. This completely destroys any remaining diplomatic off-ramps and permanently delegitimizes whoever actually takes power in Tehran. For the political base that elected this administration, this represents the ultimate betrayal. An entire political empire was built on the strict promise of keeping military forces out of endless Middle Eastern wars. The voters who put Trump in power did so with the absolute understanding that they would stop seeing soldiers returning in body bags from foreign deserts. Yet, this kingmaker fantasy is actively engineering the exact type of unrelenting, generational quagmire that was supposed to be left in the past. This is not just arrogance. It is a profound delusion about how power operates in this region. Let me show you how this is rapidly accelerating on the battlefield. We are officially on day 6 of what the Pentagon is calling Operation Epic Fury. The military campaign has moved at a blistering, terrifying pace. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is publicly bragging that the United States has already destroyed 30 Iranian ships and totally demolished their air defenses. The war has even broken out of the immediate geographic confines of the Middle East. In a massive and unprecedented escalation, a United States submarine just torpedoed and sank the Iranian warship IRIS Dena off the coast of Sri Lanka, killing at least 87 Iranian sailors. The Pentagon claims their goal is to raise the Iranian missile industry to the ground and prevent them from rebuilding for at least a decade. But while Washington focuses on conventional military destruction, they are completely ignoring the asymmetric nightmare they have just unleashed. Iran knows it cannot fly bombers directly to Washington, so they are activating a strategy of regional annihilation to inflict maximum pain. The retaliation is expanding faster than Western defenses can manage. The government in Tehran has directly contacted Gulf Arab states, including Kuwait, Qatar, and Bahrain, delivering a terrifying and absolute ultimatum. They have explicitly stated that any regional base hosting American troops is now a primary, legitimate target. They told these nations to either shut down the military bases on their soil or watch their infrastructure be destroyed. This is not an empty threat. Iranian forces have already launched retaliatory strikes hitting civilian airports and shipping ports across Kuwait, the UAE, Oman, and even a terminal in Azerbaijan. The airspace over the Gulf is paralyzed. Kuwaiti air defenses have been forced into a state of absolute panic, leading to dangerous friendly fire incidents. The United States has been forced to completely suspend operations at its embassy in Kuwait City and has advised emergency evacuations for personnel across 14 different countries in the region. But the real danger lies inside the halls of power in Tehran, where Trump's attempt to dictate the succession is backfiring spectacularly. There is currently a massive power vacuum in the country following the assassination of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei in a joint U.S.-Israeli strike. The Assembly of Experts was scheduled to meet in Qom to formally name a successor, but that gathering was disrupted by Israeli airstrikes. Now, instead of caving to Washington's demands, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is using this external pressure to consolidate absolute authority. They are weaponizing the American president's arrogance. The IRGC is heavily pressuring the Assembly of Experts to immediately and defiantly crown Mojtaba Khamenei as the new supreme leader in an emergency session. By attempting to meddle in their sovereign process, Washington has practically guaranteed that the most hardline, radically anti-Western candidate will take the throne, functioning as a massive, unified rejection of foreign interference. The radicalization happening right now is unprecedented. We are seeing top officials hyper-radicalizing in real time. Ayatollah Abdallah Jabati Amoli, one of the highest-ranking clerics in Shiite Islam, went on state television and made a rare, explicit call for the shedding of the American president's blood. Foreign ministry officials are declaring that this is no longer a diplomatic dispute but a fight for total survival. They are mobilizing a vast, lethal proxy network across the entire region. We are looking at an impending wave of drone swarms, ballistic missiles, and highly sophisticated cyber attacks aimed directly at military installations, diplomats, and critical infrastructure. The entire Middle East is being turned into a lethal kill box. In Lebanon, the front has expanded dramatically, with Israeli forces striking deep into Beirut to target Hezbollah positions, resulting in the massive displacement of civilians. The death toll is climbing rapidly, with Iranian sources reporting hundreds of casualties and at least 6 American service members already confirmed killed, with dozens more wounded from relentless drone attacks on bases in the Gulf. Yet, the true catastrophe of this forever war is not just military, it is economic, and it is about to crush the global working class. Iran holds the ultimate economic kill switch, and they are preparing to pull it. The Strait of Hormuz is the most vital maritime choke point on the planet, responsible for the daily transit of 20% of the world's oil supply. Iran is shutting it down. Shipping giants are abandoning the region out of sheer terror of anti-ship missiles and asymmetric naval warfare. When that oil is trapped, the global energy markets go into immediate freefall. Despite claims from the administration that gasoline prices are being managed, the reality is that the Dow Jones is violently shedding points, dropping nearly 800 points in a single day. The working class is about to get slaughtered at the gas pump. We are looking at catastrophic spikes in energy prices, the immediate collapse of fragile supply chains, and runaway inflation. The everyday citizen, completely disconnected from the decisions being made in the Oval Office, is funding a war they were promised would never happen, and they will pay for it with their life savings and their standard of living. While this economic disaster unfolds, the global power dynamic is violently shifting, and the actual winners of this conflict are sitting thousands of miles away. Beijing and Moscow are watching this unfold with absolute strategic glee, while Washington burns trillions of dollars and exhausts its military readiness trying to play kingmaker in a Middle Eastern desert. China is rapidly accelerating its dominance in the South China Sea and quietly locking down global supply chains. Russia, meanwhile, is selling its oil at massive premiums because the Middle East is quite literally on fire. In a deeply humiliating move that exposes the rapid decline of American financial leverage, the Treasury Department just had to issue an emergency 30-day waiver allowing India to purchase Russian oil, simply to prevent a total global energy panic. By alienating allies and draining resources, the current administration is practically handing global supremacy to its greatest geopolitical rivals on a silver platter. Even the closest traditional allies are fracturing under the weight of this reckless escalation. European nations are officially abandoning Washington's strategy. Leaders in France, Germany, and the United Kingdom want absolutely nothing to do with an offensive regime change operation. They are terrified of the blowback. They are bracing for Iranian sleeper cells to activate in major European cities and are dreading the prospect of millions of new refugees flooding across their borders. NATO is fracturing in real time as these leaders publicly and sharply distance themselves from this imperial fantasy. They recognize that if a foreign power tries to force a leader onto Iran, it will require a decades-long occupation just to keep that puppet alive. We are rapidly approaching a final chain reaction that will spiral completely out of conventional military control. The intelligence community is already bracing for the next phase, unrestricted cyber warfare. Knowing they cannot defeat a superpower navy in a sustained head-to-head confrontation, hostile actors will pivot to targeting the homeland digitally. We are looking at the terrifying reality of heavily funded sleeper cells activating to launch major attacks on regional power grids, water treatment plants, and banking networks. When the lights go out and the financial systems freeze, the war will no longer be an abstract concept happening in a distant desert. It will be a daily reality for ordinary citizens. Following this, the energy hostage crisis will reach its zenith. Any attempt to forcefully pry open the Strait of Hormuz will result in mass casualties at sea and further destabilize global markets. Inflation will skyrocket into double digits, instantly triggering a massive recession. And when the draft rumors inevitably start swirling to support a multi-year, multi-trillion-dollar occupation of Iran, the domestic blowback will be unstoppable. Polling already shows a majority of the public completely disapproves of the handling of this crisis. When the price of basic groceries doubles and the human cost becomes undeniable, massive domestic unrest is guaranteed. The very base that championed the the America First doctrine will realize they have been dragged into the exact nightmare they voted against. This kingmaker fantasy does not project strength. It projects a fatal misunderstanding of the modern world order, setting the stage for an era of unprecedented global and domestic collapse.